Good morning and welcome to another video. What I'm going to try to do in this episode is to put in some lighting between the cabin, which is just to your right here, and the building that I'm now living in back there. I figured that not only would it look kind of pretty, but for safety issues walking through here at night, I generally carry a flashlight, but it would be nice to have some light for the times that I don't. I don't want to be stepping on a snake at night or something like that, or whatever critter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put in string lights from here to the building, and I'm going to try by putting some eye bolts into several of the trees, and through that eye bolt I'll run a loose 1/8 inch cable, and then to that cable I'll attach the string lights. Before I get started here, I have some tree branch trimming to do so that they're not in the way. There aren't a whole lot of them, but there are a few. I've got a bush here to your right next to the cabin that needs to have the tops trimmed off of it. There are some branches also that'll be in the way when I get over toward the cabin. I'm going to try to keep this at about 10 feet in height so that I can drive my tractor under it and that sort of thing. To get started, I need to change clothes. I need to get into my work clothes. Stick around. Okay, let's go ahead and walk the approximate path of where I'll be hanging these lights. Right now I'm standing at the corner of the cabin. The bush that you see off to the right is a honeysuckle bush, and that one needs to have its tops trimmed a little bit. And this overhanging branch on this hackberry tree, I'll go ahead and set an eye bolt on that. And this maple tree, I will put an eye bolt into the side of that. I need just a little bit of branch trimming on that one. And this big pecan tree will have an eye bolt on the side of that. And this small pecan tree, I'll put an eye bolt on the side of that. Again, I need a little more tree trimming there, a little more branch trimming from some of these. And then up here on the corner, you can see where I've already installed the electrical box that will feed this. And I put a photovoltaic switch on that so it would turn on and off automatically at night. But also I've got a switch on the inside in case I don't want it on at all. The switch on the right I already had installed, and it feeds the light just outside the door. And then you can see a flex cable going down that gives me power on the outside. The new one that I put in is this switch right here. And the reason I didn't run it in the same box is I still need to add a switch there that will take care of inside lighting. I like running everything in conduit. It makes it safe, makes it look professional. And you can see where I penetrated the wall there. All right, let's get started. Generally speaking, I would say this tree is not a lot to look at. It's looked kind of pretty, I guess, a few times in the spring with yellow blossoms. I may end up taking it all the way down, but for now, I'm just going to do a little tree topping. All right, I'll get my mess cleaned up here, and then I'll go get some tools and I'll start setting eye bolts. All right, that takes care of getting the eye screws in. Now, the first two stainless steel eye screws each went into a hackberry tree. The next one went into a maple tree, which was quite a bit harder than the hackberry. And then the last two now are in pecan trees, which are extremely hard and dense wood. So I think I should have everything pretty well covered. Everything went in solid and secure. I don't think I have to worry too much about screws coming loose. There may be a little abrasion on the cable, I guess, but they're pretty smooth screws, so I'm hoping not a lot. My plan is having it attached to solid structures on each side that aren't going to move, and what that should do, being able to allow them to move loosely through these, will allow some room for the trees to move back and forth, and everything to still be okay. And it's in a relatively straight line. There is a little bit of a meandering curve to it, but a relatively straight line. So I think tree movement in every direction would probably be just fine. And at 11 feet off the ground, there's not a lot of tree movement. I've got such a dense forest here that actually the wind doesn't hit but the tops of them. Next, I'll get ready to string some cable. Okay, it's time to start stringing some cable, and I just remembered that I ended up getting the coated 1/8" stainless steel cable for this. Okay, I am ready to make the first connection here. I have 1/8" stainless steel cable clamps. And one thing I found with working with all stainless steel fasteners is that stainless steel likes to gall, which means that it gets to a point you can't tighten it or loosen it, which makes it a little bit hard to work with. So I always use a lubricant, and the smaller the size, I think the more important that the use of that lubricant is. Now my favorite lubricant is actually like what electricians use for corrosion resistance on electrical parts. Unfortunately, I don't have any. I do, but I can't find it. So I'm going to use a product called Nylog, which is a lubricant that's used in the HVAC industry. It should work just fine for this. These nuts are so small, I hope I don't lose one. And unfortunately, I couldn't find a socket wrench that was small enough to fit this, so I've got an open end that I've got to do it with. So it could be a little time consuming. Now a lot of cable manufacturers will recommend using 3 cable clamps. I've always used just 2, and I don't think I've ever had anything fail using 2. Now I've seen cable clamps put on in a number of ways, most of them wrong. How a cable clamp should be put on is with the saddle part of the clamp on the live load and the little horseshoe shaped bolt on the dead end side. I've got Gabby being a good watchdog here for me, watching for those critters. Last night she wanted to take off running after an armadillo. It was a fairly small one. I called her back and she was just fine. She let it go. She let it live. And since I ordered a package of, I think there's 10 or 20 cable clamps, and I can't see ever using them for anything else, I am going to go ahead and use 3 of them. All right, I have the cable clamps all in place. There's only one that is snugged up. And what I'm going to do now is to take that rope that I've got tied to the end of it and see if I can go ahead and loosen the one cable clamp that I've got there and stretch this just as tightly as I possibly can. All right, I am back. I've already hung 2 strings of lights. Turned out that about a month or 2 ago, I actually got the Harbor Breeze, I think is what they're called. It's Lowe's brand name of string lights. They're 50-foot strings, and I think I only paid about $16 or $17 a piece on a closeout. Evidently that closeout was a mistake, because I went back to see if they had any more a couple days ago, and it turns out that they had them restocked, the same SKU number and everything, for about 60 bucks a piece. So I ended up finding, also on Lowe's website, where I could buy online, Honeywell brand 50-foot strings. They're spaced just slightly farther apart than what the Harbor Breeze are, but to me, I really enjoyed paying for a little higher quality name, and it turns out that I really think that the Harbor Breeze are a higher quality than what the Honeywells are. But the Honeywells were regularly about $75 a string, and I got them for, I think it was $26 a string. So I got $300 worth of lighting for less than $100 here. I'm pretty happy about that. But anyway, I will continue now with the 3rd string. Well, I got all the lights hung and it's near dusk and the lights just came on. So I really thought that I'd have to go through and maybe replace or at least tighten a few of the bulbs, but I didn't have any of them to do. They all came on right from the start. Rather happy with that. I think it's kind of an attractive curve going toward the old barn. And I'm standing, well, right at the solar panel that's right next to the cabin. So it's pretty well lighted all the way from the cabin to the barn now. I'll end the episode here. Thank you very much for being with me. I hope you enjoyed it. Talk to you later. Goodbye.